How did I not think of that? Like, I think of myself as intelligent. I want to tell you guys something I learned while I was in Texas. I'm very excited about it. So when we went into the coffee shop there, I had gone in and I asked for an iced coffee, and then she was like, what do you want it sweetened with? And I was like, I don't know, what do you have? She's like, oh, we have honey. But at home, when I've tried having honey in my iced coffee, it doesn't really melt, and it's like super difficult to mix up. So I was like, I'm gonna ask her, like, after she hands it to me, like, how do you put honey in your iced coffee? So they make basically a honey syrup that they use for their honey sweetener. It works, y'all, it works. So I was like, today, this is the first time I've had iced coffee because it's winter and I'm not drinking a whole ton of iced coffee, but I wanted it today. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna do that honey thing. So basically I have a Keurig. I just grabbed a little bit of water that was coming out of the Keurig, so it comes out hot. And then it's mixed with a little bit of coffee. So I just grabbed some of that. I took my like teaspoon of honey and just mixed it up and then poured it into my coffee, and voila! Healthier sweetener. I'm so excited. How did I not think of that? Like, I think of myself as intelligent. Hey guys, what's up? So today I want to talk about girls' trips. When is the last time that you went on a trip with your friends? Or have you ever gone on a trip with your friends? If you haven't, today I want to talk about the benefits of trips with your friends. I want to talk about the challenges that you can have, and then I also want to give some tips at the end. So let's start with my own experience. I have several groups of friends that I take trips with. One of them is an annual camping trip that we do every year, and there's about 6, 7 women that go, maybe 8, I don't remember, between 6 and 8. And it is about 4 days long, and we always go to the same place, same cabin, which is nice because we kind of have everything figured out at this point. But then there's another group of friends that I go with where we always do something different. We did a few days at a winery. We did a few days at Geneva on the Lake, which I had never been to. So we always kind of like to pick a place that maybe none of us have ever been to. So that one's a little bit more adventurous because we're not exactly sure what we're going to run into. And it's always a little bit different too in terms of planning because we don't have the system that the first group has because we do the same thing every year. So first, let's talk about benefits. The first benefit I would say is that you get that real bond strengthening time with your friends when you spend days with them, right? So you're like actually creating really good memories, and you're, even if they like end up that they're memories that come out of challenges, you still end up like beating those challenges together. And so you're just building those bonds with your friends, and they're really important. I have really good friends that I have made from these trips. The one girl's trip where we always go somewhere different, I really didn't know those women very well before we started taking these weekend trips, and now I consider them one of my good group friends. You can build friendships out of them and gain new friends, and also gain new experiences and make memories with your old friends. The second one is making memories. When we're at the end of our life, that's all we're gonna have are our memories, right? My best friend actually started focusing a lot on making memories probably 5 or 6 years ago. And so every time I think about this term, it always kind of reminds me of her. She's one of the ones that I go on the camping trips with. And basically since then, probably the last like 7 Christmases, we really don't buy materialistic things for each other, at least nothing big. We basically say like, well, we'll go and do something. So we'll go to lunch, or we'll go to a craft show or whatever. So we'll make plans to actually do something together versus, buying something for each other. So making memories is extremely important because that's really the only thing that we're going to have at the end of our life, right? When I'm at the end of my life, I want to be able to look back and look at all these like times, these good times that we had, or these challenges that we beat with our friends and our family and the people that we really care about. The third benefit would be getting out on an adventure, right? Exploring and discovering new things, doing new things. If there's something that you've always wanted to try, like I've always wanted to try whitewater rafting, I still haven't done it yet. And I would love to do it with a group of friends. That way I would feel a little bit more secure knowing that I have my friends with me and a support system, and I'm not just going and doing this, thing by myself that I'm afraid of. So this is a great time to be adventurous and try new things. The fourth benefit for girl trips is stress relief. And I can't stress this enough. Haha, see what I did there? So spending time with your friends and laughing and just honestly like talking, and maybe talking about your challenges that you're having with family or other friends or coworkers or work or whatever, and just talking about it is so helpful. And it's really the best way to just burn off some stress. I know that there is research out there that says how much hanging out with your friends is a stress reducer. So that is definitely a benefit of girls' trips. And then the fifth benefit that I would say would be empowerment. So I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you basically will run into challenges where you have to do things that you didn't realize you were going to have to do. I know that on one of our camping trips, we had a tube. We use these really huge tubes and we go down a river. And one of them wasn't blowing up. And so I just remember this group of like 3 or 4 women all around this tube trying to figure it out. And a guy came up to try to help them, and they were like, no, we got it. And they figured it out. And it's just nice to know, like, we don't need a man to fix everything. We can just put our minds together and we can do it. I mean, obviously we can do it on our own too, but one of the other trips that I was on, we went to the one for Geneva on the Lake. One of the people attending had actually rented a golf cart for us, which was super nice. And they wanted someone to drive, and so I opted to drive. Now, I'm not a golf cart driver. I don't even golf, but I do love driving, and so I was like, I'll do it. And honestly, it was kind of sketchy. There was like a part where we're on the road, and there's 5 of us on this golf cart, and I don't think it was supposed to hold 5. It's like kind of like tilting, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna roll this thing over. Or there was traffic behind me, and it was like I can't go any faster than I'm already going. So, I had to like kind of wave people around me. And then there was another part where I just had to like drive over a lawn of a hotel that I'm pretty sure I probably wasn't supposed to drive over the lawn, but there was no other way to go, and I did it. So those are the kinds of things that are going to happen when you're on these girls' trips, and it really does empower you to be more brave and courageous and do things that you don't normally do. Now let's talk about challenges. One of the challenges is just if you get, 5, 6, 7, 8 women in a space, there's going to be a lot of emotions if they're there for days upon days. And you kind of just have to adapt to that. The fact that some people are a lot more chill than other people. Some people get like really hyped up about things. And the other thing is that when you're coming together at this time, say it could be any time of the year, and it might be challenging for a particular person. Maybe in their personal life or their work life, it is super stressful at that time. And so they're coming in with this total different energy than maybe someone else is. Maybe that time of year for them is like super easy and they're feeling relaxed and just ready to like chill. And the other person is like, let's go, let's party. You're gonna have that. And so learning to just kind of go with the flow, but also allowing people to just be who they are and do whatever they need to do to enjoy their weekend is really the key. The second challenge I want to talk about is sleeping with others. And I have a couple different stories that I can share. So I won't say who it is. One of the people in my group, of the camping group, snores. And we had bunk beds, and I was on the bunk above her, and she was snoring so loud, like it woke me up and I couldn't sleep. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. Like, I'm pretty sure the next couple days I slept in my car. I know for certain the next year I took my car and slept in my car, camped basically, so that I'd have my own space. And that was lovely. So you're gonna have that. So be prepared. Either take noise canceling headphones, that's what I recommend, or earplugs, whatever works for you. But be prepared because you just don't know. Circumstances may change. You might think you know who you're sleeping with and maybe they don't snore. But then something happens on the trip and you end up being situated with someone else that does, and now just be prepared. Another thing is one of the trips that we went on, I don't know if it was, I think it was the Geneva on the Lake. Also, I have a lot of stories for that one. We didn't realize that the house that we rented only had 2 bedrooms. And in those 2 bedrooms, there was only 1 bed in each. So there was like a queen size bed, and then a couch. And so there's 5 of us. And so the person that rented the house actually said that they would take the couch, and then the other 4 of us kind of had to split who was sleeping on the queen size beds. Now that's the group where I have made friends from that group, but they're not like, I haven't been friends with them for a very long time. So I ended up having to sleep, and so did she, in a bed with somebody that she barely knew. And honestly, it was okay. I mean, we survived. I didn't actually mind it, but it's definitely weird. And I can understand how some people would be super uncomfortable with that. So my tip is make sure you know, like, when you're renting the space, who's sleeping where, and like, yeah, maybe do a little better job than we did on that one. But be prepared. The third challenge is travel styles. So some people are, go, 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 go. They love to fill up the day with their entire agenda and make sure that they hit every mark. Other people like to be a little bit more relaxed about it and flexible and just kind of maybe have some little plan, but like allow for flexibility. And then some people don't plan at all. So when you go on these girls trips, you have to realize that you could be conjoining all 3 of these different types of travel styles. And from what I've noticed in the past is we typically let the people who are the planners, they kind of plan it before we even go on the trip. We let them be the planners. Then that way we know that we're going to have the best outcome. And they've always seemed to be also like be open about communication and say like, okay, but I don't want to plan every minute of every, moment. We want some downtime too, or we might want some time to do our own thing. So schedule in, time for yourself, and I'll talk about that. That's one of my tips. But just make sure that you do know your travel styles of the people that you're conjoining, and that everyone is on the same page with approximately how quickly you want to go, how fast you want to go, how many places you want to visit, etc. And then be open and flexible as far as if you're on the trip and some people are like, you know what, I don't really feel like going and doing that, then let the people that want to do it go do it. We've done that a ton of times. So that's not a problem at all. Just be open and flexible and allowing everyone to enjoy the trip the way that they want to enjoy it. Something else that might be a challenge would just be different budgets. So some people make more money than others and they might be willing to spend a little bit more. That just comes down to planning ahead of time and knowing about how much it's going to cost per person. So making sure that you know where you're staying and that you know about how much you're going to, the events that you're going to go to, how much they're going to cost. So have that as your base amount, and then just say, to everybody, let's plan on going, like, hey, this is about what we're thinking it'll cost, plus, bring your own food or whatever. So that's the best place, I think, to start if you do have different budgets. And then just consider the fact that, we've gone on trips, and like I said, the one with the Geneva on the Lake, somebody that has a little more money than some of the rest of us, she was able to rent a golf cart for like the entire day for us, which was amazing. And the rest of us might not have been able to put in that much money on something for all of us, but she was able to do it. She wanted to do it. She was like, I want to do this. Will somebody just please drive? And so I was like, I'll drive. Like, you pay for it, I'll drive, and then it all just worked out. But so just keep in mind and be flexible with that and be okay with it. Sometimes we'll go shopping and some people will spend a ton of money and then other people aren't really spending any. I don't care personally. I just buy what I want and I don't really care what anybody else is doing. And that's pretty much, I guess that would be my advice is like just, worry about yourself as far as like what you can do and don't go above your budget just because other people are. Yeah, just be okay with being where you're at and you are doing just fine. So the last challenge that I want to talk about is packing the same things on a trip that maybe if you would have planned ahead of time, you wouldn't have had to do. So for one of our trips, we actually plan out who's bringing what as far as food. So one person will bring the meats, one person, that's the weekend camping trip. So we know where we're going, we know what we have to cook on. One person is assigned to the meats, one person is assigned to sides, one person brings all the paper things like paper plates, cups, whatever. I think one year, like I had, another thing is like, sometimes people don't trust the people that are supposed to be bringing something, so then they'll bring it also just to like kind of cover it. But then sometimes you have 2 or 3 of those people doing that, and then you have like 4 things of coffee or like, and so it's really not necessary. Just try to trust that other people are going to be adults and do what they say they're going to do. Now, I will say I was at fault for forgetting my creamer in the fridge, I think, one year. And so I had to go to the store, and buy some. It was not a big deal, but some people are super concerned about their food. And so when you keep that in mind, then you can keep in mind that just do what you say you're going to do. And if they don't like it, whatever, that's on them. Their problem. They'll get over it. Just keep in mind that can be a challenge. All right, so now that I've talked about the benefits of traveling with your friends and then some of the challenges, let's talk about some of my tips, which I've kind of already previously mentioned a little bit. If you have high expectations, lower them. I know that sounds like, what? But I've actually learned this with all the trips that we've taken, that I used to have this like grand idea of how amazing it was going to be, and like I don't even know, I would just make things up in my head that I thought were going to happen and it was going to be the best thing ever. And I have learned to chill out a little bit and be a little bit more realistic with realizing there are challenges that come along with, the good moments, and there's going to be some bad moments. There's going to be some rough patches, and that is okay. You might not get to do everything that you wanted to do, but you will get to go on another trip with your friends. There's always going to be another time, hopefully down the road, that you can do it again. So don't have your expectations set too high. That way, you'll just enjoy it for what it is. Conjoin your forces for your items or your resources. So like I said, if you're traveling, especially if you're flying, make sure that, maybe you and a partner will be responsible. Your partner might be responsible for shampoo and conditioner, and you might be responsible for body soap, but you don't all have to bring all the things, right? So, and sometimes even where you're staying might already have that stuff. So try to figure that out too if you don't even have to take it. So pre-planning is really very helpful on these trips. 4th tip is, like I said, set a budget and make sure that everyone is well aware of how much it's going to be well before the trip. That way they can pay the person who's renting the space or however you end up working that out. But at least know how much it's going to cost for the major things, the events that you're going to, the place where you're staying, any other additional costs, and figure that out per person. Make sure they know that they put their money in on it and it's all paid for, and then whatever additional you guys want is on top of them for their own budget. So Make sure that you communicate openly with everybody. So don't be afraid to speak up and say like, hey, you know, if you've got someone who is filling your agenda with like do, and you don't like to travel like that, don't be afraid to say like, hey, can we schedule in some downtime? I know that I like to take a nap in the afternoon. Can we just have like a little bit more of like some time to go back to the rental space and just hang out for a while? Don't be afraid to communicate your wants, and then because you never know, the other people in the group might feel the same way, but they might not want to speak up. And so don't be afraid to do that and to just openly communicate about also like your budget and what you can afford to do or what you can afford to bring. Don't be afraid to, you know, speak up and say, hey, you know, if money's tight this year, money's a little bit tight, do you guys mind if I bring the paper plates and napkins instead of the meat, because meat could be expensive. So just openly communicate with your friends. And like I said, assign roles for who's going to bring what and or do what. So for our camping trips, we have someone who always brings the so for our camping trips, we have someone who always brings the tubes that we go tubing down the river in, and that person typically also brings like the meats and does the grilling, and they do the cooking. I hate cooking, so like if it was like someone was like, oh, I'll bring the meat, but you know, someone else has to cook it, it ain't gonna be me. I don't like cooking. I'd be like, I would rather cook things in pouches over a fire and like just don't put me in front of a grill. The ADHD in me does not do well with standing in front of a grill and like flipping things. Like, no, I will walk away. I will burn your food. Don't do it. And my final tip is to allow for solo time. That's something that I've been learning a lot about myself just in the last couple years, honestly, is that I really like alone time and it helps me to recharge. I like to just go into a quiet room. I could be on my phone, like I could go on Facebook or whatever and just scroll, or Instagram or whatever, but something about 15 or 20 minutes and me just kind of like having my own time, putting on my noise canceling headphones, it helps me recharge. I might nap, I might not. And I think scheduling that or planning that into your trips can be super helpful to everyone, because when you have that chance to recharge, then your evening is going to be a lot more smooth or a lot more fun. And yeah, it's just super important. So that's all the information that I have as far as planning girl trips. Let me know in the comments if you're planning one for this upcoming year. I'd love to hear about what you're doing, where you're going. And if you have any questions, also leave those below. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. And give me a thumbs up if you thought that this was helpful. So until next time, I'll see you guys later. But my first tip is, what is it? This is so dumb the way I'm doing this. Something else, excuse me. So one of the things that I've learned as I'm getting older is that memories, one of the things that, now I sound irritated. Oh God. Oh, this is gonna be rough. Anywho, so why do I feel like my shirt is being so weird? Okay. When is the last time that you went with your friends somewhere and just had lots of fun for lots of fun? What the hell is wrong with me? I knew this was gonna be hard because I don't exactly know what I'm saying.